Andy Burnham is looking almost certain to be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, replacing the current leader of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer. Burnham has long stood out amongst the political class for being one of the only mainstream politicians to vocally and publicly advocate for the need for better transport links. As such, it's left a lot of people wondering what a potential Burnham leadership will look like when it comes to transport policy. In this video, we'll examine his track record as Mayor of Greater Manchester, investigate the commitments he's made in the last few weeks in the run-up to becoming PM, and discuss the areas where there's still uncertainty over his position. Welcome to Network News. Before becoming Prime Minister, Andy Burnham had to become the MP for Makerfield, and before becoming the MP for Makerfield, Andy was already the Mayor of Greater Manchester, a role he's since had to resign from in order to become an MP. He'd been in place as the Mayor for a period of more than 9 years, and during that time, transport was seen as one of the key successes he delivered. The most high-profile case of this is, of course, the B network, which has seen all the local buses within the Greater Manchester area brought under public control through the franchising system, which sees the devolved government specifying routes, fares, branding and timetables, though the services themselves are still outsourced to private companies. Since the new system has been implemented, the reliability of bus services has increased significantly, all while the fares for them have been capped at £2 owing to the reduced operational costs associated with the new system. Alongside this, the B network has also enabled better integration of services, both between different buses, but crucially between different modes as well, with integration provided to Manchester's tram network through combined bus-tram tickets, and progress well and truly underway to integrate Manchester's suburban rail network, with 8 different lines set to be brought under the B network's branding and control within the next few years, creating a truly integrated London-style transport system. Beyond this, Burnham has also been championing the need for improved rail links for Manchester, both nationally and locally. Throughout the development of Northern Powerhouse Rail, he's been a staunch advocate of an underground station at Manchester Piccadilly rather than the previously planned above-ground station, and he's also championed plans alongside Andy Street for a cut-price revival of HS2 between Birmingham and Manchester, known as the Midlands North West Rail Link, which I've spoken about in more detail in a previous video. On a local level, he's also begun the process of investigating the potential for underground railway services across Manchester, meaning the city may finally get the proper metro/suburban rail system it deserves. So clearly there's a positive track record there, but how much of that will he bring with him into number 10? Well, we know he's not a fan of the Treasury's existing funding formulas, which prioritise investments in already successful areas of the country, such as London and the South East, and would instead prefer to see investment used as a tool for levelling up and providing a boost for areas which are often overlooked. First and foremost, he has confirmed in an interview with the paper that he intends to revive HS2's western leg to Manchester, paid for by utilising a similar funding model to London's Crossrail project, which includes land value capture on developments rising as a result of the new line's construction, as well as business rate supplements. This has come as a massive relief to many in the rail sector, who, since the cancellation of the Manchester leg in 2023, have been calling out the disastrous effects on capacity which would arise as a result of not building the northern leg, including the danger of there being a reduction in capacity owing to the train lengths used on HS2 being shorter than the trains used on the existing network, so this announcement is very welcome indeed. With all that said, there's still a lot of questions left unanswered about what this promised revival might look like. Firstly, what will the specification of the new line be? Will it be built to the same specifications as the rest of HS2, or will it be downgraded as per the plan set out in the Midlands North West Rail Link proposal? And by extension, what will this mean for the part of HS2 which is currently under construction? Just under 2 months ago, plans for Phase 1 of the line were further descoped to save money. Specifically, it was announced that the top speed of the line would be cut from 360 km an hour to 320 km an hour, whilst the signalling system for it would also be downgraded to no longer be equipped with automatic train operation. Much of the justification for this was that since the line would now be shorter and would be carrying fewer trains, it would make sense to reduce its specification in order to simplify the testing process. The logic was that this could save £2.5 billion by completing the project sooner, allowing for HS2 Limited to be dissolved. But if they'll still exist as an entity in order to build the northern leg, then these cuts no longer make any sense. Automatic train control will still be needed if the northern leg is happening, eliminating any cost savings from simplifying the signalling system, and in turn also making the speed reductions largely pointless. As such, I would argue it now makes sense to return HS2 to its original specification, since the justification behind the cuts that were made no longer applies. There's also questions over whether or not the Golborne link will be a feature of these revived plans. Originally, this link was planned to allow high-speed trains to join the West Coast Main Line just south of Wigan, and then continue up towards Scotland. However, the Midlands North West Rail Link proposals made no mention of reviving this part, suggesting that trains would instead join the network 30 miles further south at Crewe. Speaking of Crewe, it's time we discuss train lengths, because depending on how quickly Phase 2A can be delivered, the long-rumoured change to the specification of the HS2 fleet may no longer be required. For context, there has been a lot of speculation recently that HS2 may be about to modify its fleet order to include 250 metre units for use on the existing network in order to avoid a reduction in capacity from 200 metre trains running routes which are currently run by 265 metre pendolinos. However, if HS2 is being delivered to Crewe again, then the resultant uplift in capacity would mean these changes to the fleet order are no longer required, since services can be run more frequently in order to offset the reduction in carriages. Then, when 2B opens all the way to Piccadilly, there can be a massive increase in capacity by allowing 400 metre trains to run all the way to Manchester. Given the extent to which HS2 Phase 1 has been delayed, combined with the relatively simple nature of HS2 Phase 2A, it may be possible to accelerate the delivery of 2A such that it opens in line with Phase 1, negating the need for any modification to the fleet order. But that's enough about HS2 for now, because Burnham has also made other statements about his plans which may have ramifications for transport. One of the main themes is that he's made very clear that he feels growth must come from the bottom up rather than the top down. As such, one of the headline plans he's announced is to establish Number 10 North, which seeks to devolve more power away from Whitehall and act as a voice for regions of the country which are often overlooked. It's unclear on to what extent this will lead to more autonomy for devolved regions, particularly for things that actually matter such as funding powers, but if set up right, it could reduce the barriers to things like funding for new tram systems in places like Leeds and Bristol. Also unclear is what it'll mean for areas of the country without a clear devolution structure, such as cities on the south coast, which, despite having very large populations, do not have a clear devolution settlement with metro mayors in the same way that other areas of the country do. If they too could be set up with proper regional government structures, it would better position them to advocate and plan for new transport systems in their areas going forwards. In the same speech where he revealed his plan for Number 10 North, Burnham also pledged to, quote, oversee the biggest council house building programme since the post-war period. This will obviously have massive repercussions on infrastructure, including transport infrastructure. Could it mean we see more transit-oriented development, or will things take a more disjointed approach? Only time will tell, but it seems certain that it will at least have an impact. Finally, when it comes to buses, Burnham has indicated that he would like to see the success of Manchester's franchising model replicated elsewhere. This is a process which has already started in other cities, such as Liverpool, Sheffield and Leeds, but it could perhaps be rolled out further, including to rural areas. In addition to this, he has also expressed an interest in rolling out free bus travel for young people, again replicating Manchester's model, which saw the introduction of a free bus pass for people aged between 16 and 18. This isn't a confirmation of anything, but it is something he said he'll look into. So that's what we know about Burnham's intentions for transport when he enters Number 10, though there are still several areas where his position is somewhat unclear. Firstly, on airport expansion. He hasn't yet ruled it out, but initial indicators are that he's not a fan either. When the government announced its intention to give Heathrow the go-ahead on its third runway in January 2025, Burnham was quite vocally opposed to the plans, calling it a model for an ever-overheating UK economy rather than a more balanced, levelled-up economy. In addition to this, within the last few weeks, the government has also released its Heathrow Expansion Appraisal Report, which found that it'll actually harm the economy, as it has a net present value of between -£23 billion and -£62 billion for UK residents, with this figure rising to between -£82 billion and -£120 billion for its global impact, with these figures being largely as a result of the welfare harms of climate change which would arise as a result of the airport's expansion. This may provide him with a convenient excuse to pull the plug on the scheme, but equally it would represent a controversial U-turn in government policy, which he may be keen to avoid. Likewise, another major scheme where his position is unclear is that of Lower Thames Crossing. This is another project which would also have devastating environmental impacts and will require a lot of public funds to help finance an asset which is actually planned to be run by a private company. Burnham hasn't been as outspoken on this one, so it's probably more likely to push ahead, but equally, in an age of limited capital funding, it may be another project which is easy to cut if he's looking to prioritise schemes in the north of the country instead. When it comes to rail electrification, he's previously indicated that he's supportive of it, but with battery technology becoming more common, he may also end up maintaining the government's current policy of taking the easy route by prioritising battery trains over full electrification. And finally, the other area of uncertainty around Burnham concerns who will make up his cabinet, in particular the positions of Rail Minister and Secretary of State for Transport. This is relevant because Louise Haigh, who was the previous Secretary of State for Transport, is a close ally of Burnham and was instrumental in the campaign of getting him into number 10. She had been forced out of her position in Starmer's government by Morgan McSweeney only 5 months into the role, and has since been replaced by the current Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander, who has maintained broadly the same agenda but in a less ambitious way. For example, when concerning the renationalisation of the railways, Louise Haigh planned to use a break clause in the contract to bring Greater Anglia into public ownership first, whereas Heidi Alexander has instead opted to take operators into public hands when their contracts were set to expire anyway. Another area of difference is modal shift. Whilst Haigh was very much in favour of getting people out of cars and onto more sustainable modes of transport, Alexander has instead said that whilst she's against car dependency, she wouldn't go so far as to set modal shift targets or passenger growth targets for the railways. Louise Haigh has also spoken very publicly in favour of HS2, so her reappointment as Transport Secretary would be consistent with the government's changed position on this. Again, it's not yet been confirmed that she'll be reinstated to her former position, and whilst it might seem like an obvious move given her close alliance with Burnham, it may also be the case that she's appointed to an even more senior position within the cabinet, with someone else filling the role of Transport Secretary instead. Clearly there's still a lot of questions that need to be answered over what the government's transport policy will be under Burnham's leadership, but initial indicators are that it'll be an improvement to the current situation we have under Starmer, and that Burnham will take a proactive rather than reactive approach to long-term planning. It seems that he can talk the talk, but only time will tell if he's also able to walk the walk, as if there's one thing we know about politicians, it's that they love to backtrack on their promises. As such, it will be important for us to hold him accountable for the promises he's made so far, such as getting HS2 to Manchester, whilst also pushing for him to go further in other areas. For example, if land value capture can be used to pay for HS2's western leg, what's stopping it being used to pay for the eastern leg to Leeds? Overall, it seems like there's a lot that could change over the next few years, but I'll be here to keep you in the loop about any major developments, so subscribe to Network News for more updates like this. Leave a like if you enjoyed, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and until next time, thanks for watching.